Now let's take a look at least one probabilities. That key phrase is going to be in all these problems, at least one. So when you see that phrase, that will inform you need to use the formula for the at least one probabilities. So in our first example, it's find the probability of a couple having at least one boy among 4 children. And when you see questions like this, you're always going to assume that boys and girls are equally likely. So, we want the probability of at least one boy among 4. So I'm going to say in 4. One boy in 4. That means we need 1 minus, and all of this is just notation, the probability of not one boy in one child raised to the number of children. So that would be 4 children. Okay, so what's the probability that a child is born and it's not a boy? Well, that would mean it's a girl. Boys and girls, we're assuming equally likely, so that would be 1/2. And we can go over here and we can actually use the formula for the not probabilities. Go over here and do a little bit of scratch work. The probability of not a boy is equal to 1 minus the probability that it is a boy. So 1 minus 1/2. Remember that would be 2 over 2 minus 1 over 2, and that's 1/2. So that's the long way to do it with boys and girls, but if you just think about it, you know if it's not a boy, it's a girl, so that's 1/2. So we're going to do 1 minus, and we found the probability of not one boy is 1/2. And then we need to raise that to the number of children. All of this here that I'm putting in red quotations, that is just notation. When you put that 1/2 in, the P, all of that comes out. So we put the 1/2 in, and then we get 1 minus 1/2 to the 4th. That's 1 over 16, and you can use your calculator to figure that out. You could put all this in your calculator at one time. Just make sure you put parentheses around the 1/2 before you raise it to the 4th. That's 16 over 16 minus 1/16, and that's 15 over 16. If we want to change that to a decimal, that would be 0.938. Our next example also involves a probability of 1/2. An unprepared student makes random guesses for the 5 true-false questions on a quiz. Find the probability that there is at least one correct answer. So, at least one correct. So, key phrase, that tells us this is an at least one problem. So, the probability that out of 5, at least one is correct. 1 in 5. So, the formula tells us that we need to do 1 minus the probability that not 1 is correct. And that's in one trial, or one question in this case, raised to the number of trials, which in this case would be the number of questions, so there are 5 questions. If it is true-false, then the probability that you get it correct is 1/2. The probability that you get it incorrect is 1/2. So that's 1 minus 1/2 to the 5th. Now in this one, just go ahead and you can plug all that into your calculator. The way to do that in your calculator would be 1 minus open parenthesis 1 divided by 2 raised with the caret to the 5th, and that answer is 0.969. You can turn that into a fraction if you'd like using the math fraction function. If you turn that into a fraction, you should get 31 over 32.